Oh, welcome back to Off the Curb. It's been a while. We miss you. We miss you dearly. And I'm excited for tonight. I got to say, I've had a few interviews that I have wanted to do, just conversations I've wanted to have. The Ben Carter Michigan State basketball conversation is a conversation I've wanted to have for a very long time. Former Michigan State basketball player in the flesh, live, Ben Carter joining us. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? All good.
I love that you're representing, and we're going to get to that later. That you're rocking the shirt, because I'm curious, on how you viewed your time there. But first, before we start, I got to talk just for a minute about the Israeli league and you playing over there. I believe you're still active over there. I may be a degenerate, but I have gambled on that league a few times. I've actually done pretty well, but I've watched these games. I was shocked by the crowds and how into it. At least the games I watch, these people are like, what is it like playing over there?
Really, you could probably say that about Europe in general. Fans are very passionate about sports, very passionate about their cities and places they live in, and they get rowdy. It definitely gets intense. There's times where I've gotten a little shouting altercations with fans. My father played in Israel for a long time. He played about 13 years in Israel, and he was known for his antics on the court and playing with such passion and really rallying the fans around him. So to kind of take that in for myself, it's a little bit different than the college atmosphere. You're hearing drums and horns and the whole game, like they don't stop, just all drumming all game, and it definitely adds to the atmosphere. It's fun to play in as a player. It definitely makes it a little bit more intense, a little bit more fun. There's more energy in the arena, so it's a good time, man. The team that I play for now currently is in Eilat. It's in the southern part of Israel, and we have a smaller gym, but it makes it more intimate. Fans are really right on top of us, and we pack it out. So it's always fun to play in front of a full house, no matter what how big the gym is. But coming from the Brez and 15,000 and going to gyms where you're playing in front of my first 2 years in Israel, I played in a small gym that maybe sat, I want to say 500 people total, like max capacity, maybe 1,000. To go from that, from the Brez to that is a little bit different, but each arena and each atmosphere, they have its place in sports. So it's cool for those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, people can say gambling is bad. It has made me more cultured, because I'll admit my perception was anything but playing like in the NBA or obviously, major college basketball was like empty gym, 6 people there who don't give a shit. And that was not the case. Like I've only tuned into these games because of like the Barstool gambling app or whatever. But I was like you said it with the drums. I'm like, these people care more than we do about like the Pistons. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's an intense, culture around sports, but also it's high level basketball. Also, there's a lot of high level players. My first year over there, I was actually on the team with Kalen Lucas, Spartan legend, and he was my vet my first year. And that just shows you the quality of players that are over in that league. And I come into different games, and ex NBA guys, former All-American, college All-Americans. It's high level basketball. So, and you can really find that in a lot of places. There's not just good basketball in the States. I think that a lot of people have this stigma around professional sports overseas, as it's not as competitive or not as high level and not as talented. But that's not the real thing. It's high level athletics over there.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the quality of play, it's actually it's not at NBA level. The biggest difference I notice is just the athleticism in the NBA. Like guys can do things that they can't do over there. But in terms of like intensity, good shooting, passing, fundamentally, it's a great league that you're in. And I look
it's a different game too. In the NBA, there's no defensive 3 seconds, and that provides a lot of space on the court. So guys have driving lanes. The game is played differently. There's different strategies and tactics, and um, overseas you get to really see, or just internationally in general, different styles of basketball. And I think there's a place for that anywhere. You see right now they have a Eurobasket going on, and guys like Luka and Jokic are playing for their countries, and you get to see them play a different style of game. Games are different, so yeah, it definitely is a high level IQ as well. A lot of really good basketball is played over there.
Well, speaking of high level basketball, there's no higher level than Michigan State. I think it's above the NBA, above the Harlem Globetrotters. Michigan State basketball is the pinnacle, as we know. You came into the Michigan State program as an established veteran. You had been at two, I would say, major universities, University of Oregon and UNLV. I want you to take me into the first call, email, text, however it came from Michigan State. Hey, I want you to come to East Lansing. Who reached out to you first? What did it say? Like, take me through that process, bringing you to Michigan State.
Before I get there, I got to give a shout out to my man Iz signing that new extension and really proving that he's a Spartan for life. If we didn't already know that, he bleeds green. So congratulations to him and his whole family. I'm just really excited about that. And also Thomas Kelly back on the staff, much deserved. He was a GA when I was there. We had classes together, and we spent a lot of time together. So I was really, really happy to see that they brought him back. Just with DJ leaving and Fife leaving, a couple years before. But I'll be honest, when I first got a call from Iz, I was a little bit shocked. I was shocked because at the time, I was just kind of early on in my rehab. I had injured my knee, coming off my best year of college basketball at UNLV, playing in my hometown. Had a season-ending knee injury, and after the season, or during the season, there was a coaching change. The coach that I came to play for, Dave Rice, who I still have a great relationship to this day, is him and his brother Grant, who I played for in high school, are like family to me. So when he had got fired mid-season, and then I kind of saw what the program was going through in terms of the transition and turmoil, and I realized that the team was going to be not that competitive the following year. They eventually went on to set the record for losses in a season or something like that. And for me, going into my senior year, I wanted to have a chance to play in the NCAA tournament again. I had some early success early in my career at Oregon, where I went to 2 NCAA tournaments, played in the Sweet 16. I think I played in 5 NCAA tournament games through my first 2 years of college. And those are opportunities that not a lot of guys get. You can talk to guys that play D1 basketball and ask them if they ever got a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. So for me to do it my freshman and sophomore year, and then going into my senior year, that's all I wanted. I wanted a chance to play in the NCAA tournament again, a chance to compete for a championship. And when I had opened up my recruitment and decided that I was potentially going to leave UNLV, I didn't know what type of contact I was going to get from schools. I didn't know what to expect because I was coming off of an injury, and I really had a wide range of schools, from Michigan State and Tom Izzo calling me to, I had D2 schools and schools in D1 that I've never heard of, and that was tough for me to gauge because I knew that I wanted to go play high level basketball and really challenge myself. That's just kind of my personality. But getting that call from Iz, I was a little bit shocked. I think like a couple of hours before, I just got the phone with Incarnate Word or something like that, and there's a disparity between those 2 schools, and it caught me off guard. And he picked up the phone and he said, "Hey Ben, this is Tom Izzo, Michigan State." And I was like, "What?" I couldn't believe it. But eventually, I had OG. Congratulations to him on his retirement. Mike Garland, OG, came to my house. Him and Dane Fife set up an in-home visit, came and talked to me and my family. And I'd scheduled 5 visits to Arizona, North Carolina State, Miami, Arizona State, and Michigan State. Michigan State was my first one. I took my trip out to EL, and leaving that trip, I said, I don't need to take any more visits. This is where I think I need to be. This is where I want to be. I had a great connection with the guys immediately on my visit. I spent a lot of time around Matt McQuaid, Kyle Arns, Connor George, Kenny Goins, Tum Tum, and knew some of the guys they had coming in, and also saw a gap to be filled. I really believe that on that team the first year I was there, that there was a gap that I could fill in terms of leadership, veteran savvy, and also at the power forward position, just with some of my IQ and my abilities, and to really fill out the team, because we had such talented players, but they were young. That was Cassius, Miles, Josh, Nick. That was their freshman year. So going into it, I didn't know what to expect. But yeah, that's that first conversation with Izzo. It definitely caught me off guard, to say the least.
One of the coolest things about going to Michigan State, I think, as an athlete, not that I would know, but observing from afar, is not just that it has the most beautiful grass and the most beautiful women, and you get a brilliant education, all that stuff. It's the cool shit you get to do. I talked with former basketball player Anthony Ianni, who's a good friend of mine, on the show a while ago. He got to play on an aircraft carrier and shake the president's hand. Like, it's just stuff like that. Michigan State players constantly in the Champions Classic. Now, you were still injured when you newly joined the team, but I know for a fact you were in the Bahamas for the Battle for Atlantis in 16. And I don't know if we talked about this off air, Ben, prior, but you and I have actually met. I played craps with you in Atlantis at the time. You were hurt, so not playing. So I think you were having maybe even more fun than the average guy on the team. And it's funny. I tell that story. I was standing right next to you at the craps table, and right across from us was Johnny Peralta, who at the time was still playing for the St. Louis Cardinals, but had been the Detroit Tigers starting shortstop for 3 years. So it was just kind of a surreal moment. But I've done the Battle for Atlantis thing twice. You did it without having to worry about, I got a game the next day. I got to ask about that experience as a player. I just remember walking around and it's like, there's Cassius Winston, there's Ben Carter, like there's Joshua Langford. As a fan, it was really cool. What is it like as a college kid and being on the team, being in that setting?
Well, to be honest, it was a little bit tough for me because I had recently had surgery and was still on crutches, and I was crutching through that trip. I wasn't able to really walk yet, and it was hard for me to move around. And on top of that, I was still kind of dealing with going through another injury. So before coming to Michigan State, I hurt my knee at UNLV, but then coming to Michigan State, I had got to campus. I want to say I had graduated, finished my school so I could make the transfer over to Michigan State. And I was still rehabbing at that time, and got to campus in August, and for about 6 to 8 weeks, kind of before the season, was just working my ass off, just trying to get back. It was for those who know, coming back from an ACL injury is not easy. And I was determined to come back better than I was before. And unfortunately, after 6 to 8 weeks of hard rehab, working out 2-3 times a day, shout out to my man Nick Ritchie, the athletic trainer with the team, spent long hours with him, getting me right. And unfortunately, I re-injured my knee. Same injury the first day of practice, actually my first day back to playing basketball full court 5-on-5. And that was tragic. That was very hard for me to deal with. And that kind of lingered with me throughout really my whole time at Michigan State, because, coming off one injury like that is tough. Coming off back-to-back injuries like that is unheard of. Nowadays, you see Clay do it, and I think he was out for like 700 days or something. And people don't really know what goes into that, besides the hard work, which is kind of what it does to people mentally. And that was, tough for me to deal with at the time. But the trip to the Bahamas was great for me because I got to be around the team. And that's what I needed most during those times, was just to be around people to kind of uplift my spirits. And blessing in disguise, Gavin Schilling ended up having the same injury a week after I got hurt. And we spent so much time together. You would not believe how much time we roomed together on the road. We roomed together in the Bahamas. And that was my crutch. We leaned on each other to kind of help us through the adversity that we faced dealing with those injuries. So that was a blessing in disguise. Shout out to Gavin, just signed in France. Really happy for him. Having a really good professional career. But the trip in Bahamas was fun, man. I found out they had a casino and said, "Look, I'm from Vegas. I know how to play dice. Let me go ahead and get on the craps table." And ended up winning I think I won like $200, and at that time was a lot.
You won when I was there. You were winning when I was there. I see. It's funny because I was gonna play anyway. I'm the worst craps player. I'm more of like a blackjack guy. But I walked up and I see Johnny Peralta's fat face, and he wasn't a fat guy. He just had this big head. And I see it from across the casino. I'm like, oh shit, this is a story. I'm gonna go play with Johnny Peralta. And I walked up. I didn't realize this is the back of your head. So I was standing like right next to you, and you were in a pretty good mood when I saw you. I don't know. Maybe you were hiding the melancholy with the injury. Your thing kind of sucked too, because it's like Sisyphus getting kicked down the mountain. Like you had just gotten back, and then it's like shoot back down. I mean, you don't have to name names with teammates and stuff, but like, were guys drinking there like a little bit? I mean, I know no one was bombed, but like I feel like if I'm 19, you can drink there, they'll serve you. But I got a game against Wichita State the next day. Like, I'm not saying I'd get wasted, but it wouldn't be varsity blues. But I'd be like having one Mai Tai like during the day. Like, do the players do that stuff?
No, it wasn't that kind of trip. Not for us. I mean, as you know, Izzo is all business, and that was the mentality we all had. We're there for a job. We're there to win games, win a championship, get better. It's early in the season, so those times you're still trying to figure things out as a team. And guys were locked in, and it's also a lot of practices, a lot of games. Guys don't really have the energy to go out and be partying and shit like that. And so guys were locked in. That wasn't no type of issue for anyone on our team. We had a really, really tight knit group. That team was so close, and everyone held each other accountable. And if there was any type of bullshit going on, we handled that internally, and that's kind of how we went about the rest of the season, because we had faced a lot of adversity that season. That was a season filled with adversity. We were really good, and if we didn't keep winning games, that adversity could have folded us. But we just had such great guys, such quality leadership. Tom is one of the best leaders I've ever been around in my life, and his grasp on the team and holding everyone accountable, and everyone holding each other accountable was great. We had our fun at the right times, and there was definitely fun that we've had throughout the season, but not at that tournament. Me was different. I was a little nervous to be at the casino, but look, you have to wake up and go to practice or shoot around. I went to all the film sessions, everything like that, but my mind wasn't as locked in on games as the guys that were playing.
Yeah, it didn't need to be. Tum probably did have a good grasp on the team, hopefully as good as the grasp he had on the rim on that dunk in that tournament. I don't know if you remember it. That was like the loudest it was all weekend.
Wow, what a play. I mean, I jumped off the bench. Like, I don't even think I was supposed to be moving like that. I got up. I was like, what? But
I didn't think it was him. Like, it was like I knew it was him, but the brain is trying to like catch up. Like, there's no way that was Tum. It was like a coast to coast.
Tom had a different spirit during that trip. Tom had a different, being from the Bahamas. We got to spend some time with his family, and I know for me, playing games in Las Vegas, because I played when I was at Oregon. We had the Pac-12 tournament here. I played a game against UNLV my freshman year. Then playing in Vegas, I played some of my best basketball in my hometown, in front of my friends, in front of my family. Like, seeing my parents at the game, it gave me a little extra added motivation. And a little bit more focused. And Tum Tum was on that trip with a different type of energy. And to see him do something like that in the game, that needs to go. I mean, it was on highlight tapes everywhere, but that's one of the best highlights I had, and I've seen a lot of them during my time at Michigan State. We had some fun moments, but that was special for Tom too. He went up and yammed that thing.
I'm with you. That dunk does not happen if that tournament's like in Atlanta or something. I mean, that was I'm home with the Bahamas dunk for sure.
Yeah.
I want to touch a little bit just generally on playing for Tom Izzo. You expressed affection for him right at the top before we even really got into it. So I have a feeling where you're going to go with this, but I don't know if you're cognizant when you were playing. It's been a lot more even after, since you've since graduated. Izzo gets a lot of shit from particularly the national media, some local, but particularly the national media, for being too hard on guys, for being too intense, for not carrying himself a certain way on the sideline. I've always said his players, to a man, defend him and say they embrace that. Yes, he's hard to play for, but that's what we wanted. That's what we signed up for. That's why my parents backed me coming to Michigan State. Give me the real answer, please, Ben. Like, clear this up. Is he too intense? Is he over the top? Or is that something just you? I mean, you can only speak for yourself. What did you make of his style?
I think before answering that question, you kind of got to know what goes on in the mind of Tom Izzo. And you got to know two things about Tom Izzo. He is super competitive, maybe the most competitive person that's in that program. And also, his work ethic is sickening. The amount of work that he puts into preparing, studying the game, learning always trying to learn new things about the game, and just attention to detail. It makes sense that he coaches the way he does because of what he gives. It's what he puts into it, and he expects that out of his players to get, for us as his players to put that same passion and energy into the game, and also what the university means to him. I think if Iz was one of those guys that went program to program and kind of moved around, you wouldn't see as much intensity and passion as he has in his coaching style. It's not for everyone. It's definitely not for everyone. He is hard. He's hard to play for at times. Very demanding. Very challenges guys from top to bottom. I mean, he challenges everyone. He's challenging the walk-ons. He's challenging guys that don't play. He's challenging the managers. He's challenging his GAs. He's challenging his coaches, his assistants to, step up, like do more. What more can you do? What more value can you bring? At first he kind of, early on in practice, it was the first year I got there before it was preseason workouts, we were doing a drill and Coach Izzo had something to say about people from the West Coast being soft, and I was like, nah, this ain't that. I'm not just I'm not gonna wear that title, like that ain't me. So I had to accept that challenge and show it through my work and through my my play, and it just shows you that isn't gonna challenge anybody. I'm sure he was challenging his own son with being on the team, and I'm sure there was practices where they. And also, I'll say this: Iz used to always say, "Look, if you want to challenge me, good, bring it. Make sure you bring the goods," is what he used to say. So he embraces challenges. If we don't see eye to eye on something, okay, let's talk about it. Let's watch the film. What have you been doing? Have you been putting in the work? Have you been, what is your commitment level? Because I know what mine is in terms of Izzo talking. Like, he knows I know what I put in. That man can barely sleep. He's up watching film, watching games or whatever. And that's his approach. He embraces challenge. He wants people to challenge him.
You touched on, oh, sorry. I was going to say, but you touched on a key distinction there. And this is something I like to say too. You look at other intense coaches that had wild success. I mean, just off the top of my head, one in each sport. People forget that Joe Paterno was like this because he was old at the end, but Joe Paterno used to ream out players famously. And the ultimate example, obviously, in basketball, I would argue, is Bobby Knight with Indiana, multiple national championships, wild success. The reason Izzo's different is Bobby Knight, Joe Paterno, most guys like that historically are not going to tolerate any lip back. If anybody even dared to fire back at Bobby Knight, they would have never played again. It's the complete opposite with Izzo, and you touched on that with the like, yeah, bring the rebuttal, sir. Like that's where he's different, and that's what I think some people miss is you are allowed to, like Ben Carter as a player, Cassius Winston, whomever, you're allowed to give it right back to him, and he doesn't bench you or whatever. Is that fair?
I mean, I'm sure there's been times during huddles where you see, I mean, if the camera made its way into the huddle, we used to try and like block it out to not let them get in the huddle. I remember there was times, especially the year I wasn't playing, like when the camera would try and get in, like I'm sliding to the right, making sure they can't see, because I mean that's you know what happens within the team, within the group. That's between us. Let us figure that out. And you could often see in huddles guys going at it. I've seen assistant coaches go at it. I've seen head coaches, players go at it. And players going at it. And, it's part of the culture. It's accountability at the highest level. I think that's when you play a team sport, it's one of the key characteristics of success is accountability. And I mean, especially at the college level, where guys are coming of age and maturing and kind of figuring out how to navigate their own lives, but also to be a part of a group, there has to be a high level of accountability. And would also, use those as moments he would challenge players. This is the kind of chess that is plays. Is he would challenge guys just to see how his teammates would pick him up. He would pick certain guys to chew him out and go at him just to see how his guys would rally around him. And he would play that kind of chess. And yeah, you could say it's mind games, but at the same time, that's why the record speaks for itself. I mean, the success speaks for itself. There's no denying that.
Yeah, I think that is what people just miss generally, because typically the line is you shouldn't be treating a kid like that in 2022. And they just miss that it's a reciprocal relationship. That is the culture. And he's not a tyrant. Like, you're allowed to give it right back. And I think that's the key distinction between him and that intensity, the Bob Knight type stuff that frankly is outdated because it's my way or the highway. It's one way. I think the fact that it's collaborative, it's mutual, it goes around. You mentioned assistants, players. I mean, Cassius Winston, who's like the most meek, nicest guy ever, was giving it to him at the end of his career on the sideline. Like, that's just part of it. I think it is different. I want to get to, and look, I mean, I could talk to you for 4 hours, Ben, because the Michigan State basketball experience is so good for me, and it's fascinating to me. I want to get to your last game, which is, I think, famous, infamous, whatever, in the Michigan State circle. You and I have talked before off camera about this. You kind of know where I stand, but where I stand is in the minority. So for those that don't remember, Michigan State is effectively playing a home game in 2018 as a pretty heavy favorite, playing Syracuse in the second game of the NCAA tournament in 2018. And basically it was a typical Jim Boeheim tournament win where he's an underdog. His zone kind of flummoxes a team. They don't handle it well. You were at the center of this, and this is where I find you so interesting. That game, if you're just looking at the game log for Ben Carter in your last college season, you play 23 minutes, which was a season high for you.
Yeah.
The previous high was 19 in November against Notre Dame. So this was your high by 4 minutes, and the highest stage and the most minutes you've played in all year. But the next closest one was like 5 months earlier.
Yeah.
This was a source of major contention. I'm going to get to you in a second, but I want to sort of paint the picture for the audience that can't remember how this was such a big deal to people at the time. And then I want to get into kind of your perception on it. So Ben, can you show up or throw up the Valenti ESPN mashup? This was the next day or the next Monday, whatever it were, covering the game and the decision to play Ben Carter so many minutes in that game against Syracuse.
How in God's name do you justify Nick Ward and Jaren Jackson Jr. playing 16 and 15 minutes respectfully. You got 29 offensive rebounds, and somehow, some way, they are on the bench. How does that happen?
No one will hold himself more accountable than Tom Izzo is going to hold himself accountable. And you know what?
Sure.
Their attack against zone was not good. They needed multiple guys in the middle of that zone. Ben Carter caught it. He didn't put any pressure on the rim. He could pass it from there, but he couldn't put any pressure on the rim.
I thought Tom's coaching was a complete joke. I thought their game plan was a complete joke. I think that people who just want to say, well, MSU shoots better, they win, are a joke. Oh, and then you have a lottery pick that you sit on the bench for a 6th-year player who plays 6 minutes a game. I don't want to hear about Ben Carter. Oh, he moved the basketball well. Shut up. Your job in a zone is to put a guy at that free throw line that can shoot it, pass it, drive it. Jaren didn't play well. I'll still take him over Ben Carter. And by the way, Miles played power forward all last year. Put him in a game.
Okay, so this stuff is going all over the place, and I'm sorry, but that was, for our fan base, a representative example. I have been on the opposite side of this from day one without exception. I grabbed a little bit of an excerpt from Ant Wright, who's a friend of mine, former Michigan basketball player. I came out and spoke in your defense for like the 37th time a couple years ago, and he was pushing back a little bit. I want to show you that exchange. This is part of it. And then we'll get to you, Ben. So this is the Ben Carter debate. This is on Twitter, truncated. I said, I am the only person on earth to agree with Tom Izzo's decision to play Ben Carter in that Syracuse game. The ball was moving much better with Carter in than Jaren Jackson. Ant Wright chimes in, I can't tell if you're joking, ... Next slide, Ben. Look, I get the other side. It seems absurd to do what Izzo did, but did you watch the game? The offense was stagnant with Jaren Jackson. The ball movement was very good with Ben Carter. The guards simply couldn't make a shot. Ant Wright fires back, ball movement, putting Miles Bridges 25 feet away from the basket versus zone and keeping Ben Carter at the free throw line was a fail move. And then the last little volley here. I say, I saw the ball go down low to Ben Carter. He'd find an open guard, and they'd miss the look. McQuaid and Langford went 2 for 19 and a 2-point loss. Autopsy says they were the cause of death. Ant Wright fires back. Autopsy says Izzo didn't go down with his horses. Okay, Ben, I'm going to bring you in. I've made it clear where I stand. I'll get more into my opinion later. What happened? It's a weird question, but do you agree with the decision to play you 23 minutes, and how do you feel that went?
So, truth is, I actually went and watched the game. I went and watched that game earlier today for the first time ever after that loss. And look, I can understand everyone's opinions surrounding that game, especially with how talented the whole roster was. You could have made the argument to put anyone at that spot. And, between Miles, myself, Jaren, Kenny, you could have put Xavier at the high post. You could have done a lot of different things. But the fact of the matter was, it just put me in the game, and I went out there and tried my best. To be honest, and for people that don't play sports, for people who, and I feel like a lot of the people who comment on, have takes on this, never played sports at a high level, and that's okay. But it's a mental game as well. And you kind of said some of the stats leading up into that game. I played the game before against Bucknell in the tournament. I think I played like 10 or 12 minutes. Before that, I didn't play any minutes in the Big Ten tournament. I played on senior night when we won the Big Ten title and raised the banner in the Brez on my senior night. That was special. But before that, I don't think I logged a minute for like 2 months straight or something like that. I was deep on the bottom of the bench. But if you ask anyone on that team, I was coming to work every day. And I helped sharpen the tools that we had in the shed. They put me and Xavier Tillman on the scout team, and we turned it out day in, day out. And going into that game, it was weird to watch myself in that game really have no confidence. The thinking back to just playing with no confidence, playing with no feel, no rhythm. My movements weren't that would represent having, feeling comfortable in the game. With that being said, I actually didn't think I did that bad. Defensively, I was in help a lot. I saved. I had a couple deflections, a couple blocks. It was in good spots defensively most of the game. And offensively, besides just not really having confidence to make plays from the high post, which for anyone that knows me or has followed my career, has known me since I've been playing the game of basketball, has known that the high post is my spot. I think if you go watch like one of my highlight tapes from my first or second year playing pro, you'll see just clip after clip of me knocking down jumpers and making plays from that area of the court. But in my mind, I really didn't really do that bad. And to be honest, was active in the middle of the zone. I spread the ball around. We had a lot of good looks. But that's the game of basketball. Sometimes shots fall, sometimes they don't. I mean, I think we were top 5 in the country in field goal percentage that season, top 10, 15, whatever, in 3-point field goal percentage that season. And we just didn't make shots that game. And look, the decision for Iz to stay with me in the game, I think it was, in my opinion, right or wrong, I think it was a decision that he made, and we rocked with that. And we still had a chance, late in that second half, to really separate ourselves and build a lead against them. But people don't talk about the turnovers. We were very reckless with the ball that game. That zone had us very passive. We didn't really look to attack. There wasn't that many gaps to attack, and that's the Syracuse zone, and that's their game plan. But I think going back, I think we play that game 10 times. I think we win 9 times out of 10, to be honest. I think that just happened to be the one time. I think if you look roster to roster, we were much more talented than them. We just, that's what happens in the NCAA tournament. Bad shooting nights, ball not bouncing our way. I think like late in the game, I saw Miles missed a layup at the rim on a fast break. Those type of things you just can't really plan and predict for. But to be honest, I caught a lot of slack or a lot of backfire from that game. I remember just being on the bus because it was in Detroit. Being on the bus back to East Lansing and just like getting hate mail and messages from fans, like disgruntled fans, talking shit, and that doesn't feel good because look, people see that game, but they don't know what it took for me to get to that game. I had back surgery the year I sat out at UNLV, 6 months recovery, played half a season, ACL injury, out for 8 months, ACL injury again. So I was coming off of back-to-back season-ending injuries. And for me to even be at that stage says a lot. And it speaks more about my perseverance and my mindset and, the way that I see things rather than a win or loss. I know it stung. I mean, we were the favorite to win the whole thing. I mean, we were the number 1 team in the country the majority of the season, and we were, in my opinion, the best team in the country. Besides a couple, losses late in the season and kind of just trying to find our way. But regardless, I'm so proud of that team and everything we did accomplish that season. We had dealt with a lot of adversity. Iz was on the spotlight that, late of that season with everything going on at the university. And, it was a lot for us to overcome. And to even be in that position, I was proud of myself. And it took me a while to come to terms with that because of how critical I am of myself, and especially when it comes to basketball, which is something I've devoted my life to. It's going back, watching that game today, it brought back some great memories. Just being in that environment, playing in front of those fans, and being on the court with those guys in the team, because more than anything, I think that's one of the beautiful things about Coach Izzo and how he runs his program is it's very family oriented, and guys take pride in wearing this on their chest, and guys come back all the time, and just to have those relationships. I think obviously if we would have went on to a Final Four and won a championship, that would have been a memorable season, of course, but I think we can't take away from the good of that season and everything that we overcame as a team, as a program, and also for myself as a person. For me to get back to that stage and get a chance to play in the NCAA tournament, which is what I dreamed of when I came to Michigan State. But it took me. I rehabbed for a full year after that second ACL injury, and it took me a full year to rehab, and a lot of dark days, a lot of adversity that I had to face on my own. So for me to get there, I think people don't understand that. They don't really know what goes into it, and that's okay. I mean, that comes with sports. That comes with being a fan. You see it as, or people see it as, wins and losses, and being upset because they might have lost money on the game or something. But at the end of the day, look, athletes are human beings. We go through stuff. We go through mental battles, and I think what I learned growing from there and going into my professional career and having some success and just seeing how much of a mental game it is, and how much of it is just up here and kind of blocking out the noise and just find ways to feel comfortable and at the end of the day play the game that we love with our hearts and our passion, everything that we put into it. So that's my takeaway from the game. I know a lot of people have some crazy takes, and I mean, shout out to
I honestly, I disagree with you too, but in the other direction. I think that I'm more pro Ben Carter than Ben Carter is.
I'll also say this. I mean, look, early on in the season, I played, big minutes when we won the PK 80, and we beat North Carolina. I mean, I played some big minutes that game, and went against like an All-American Luke May, and I had a great game against him defensively. And early in that season, while Jaren was really kind of adjusting to college basketball and trying to stay out of foul trouble, it was my opportunity to kind of give my input on the program and everything. I thought I wore that Spartan jersey with pride, and I really did put everything I had into it. But I mean,
you go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I understand people's takes. I don't know what that guy's. What was his name? Ant Wright.
Well, yeah, he's actually the one that you can't hit him with the never played sports because he was a Michigan basketball player.
And I don't choose to, and I don't mean to chop anyone down or like disrespect anyone. That's I don't care that much that people have those opinions. Like they're entitled to those opinions. But that's part of it. So shout out to him, man, because look, without that, it wouldn't have motivated me to continue playing the game and make a living out of it and see the world and continue doing what I love, because people fold after going through what I went through. I'm sure a lot of people would have folded. I don't know if Ant would have folded, but I want him to understand that before he has these type of comments that are directed towards me, because look, it took me a lot to get back there. So I'm gonna tip my hat to him, but at the same time tip my hat to myself, because I overcame much more than anyone could ever imagine to get back to that spot.
Well, and here's where I differ from you, honestly, because your perspective, which I appreciate, is, hey, you said I gave it my best. I overcame adversity to get on the court. You have a kind of like little Johnny framing of this, which is selling yourself short. You move the ball. They missed the guards collectively in the wings 50 shots in the second half. So I appreciate that you're humble. I appreciate your perspective, and maybe it's a little bit more mature than mine, but looking at this externally, I don't even think your takeaway should be, it was I gave it my all. I mean, the right move to play you.
I don't think I played bad. Guys, look, if we hit a couple more shots and let's say I finished the game with 5-6 assists, all of a sudden it's a different story. We win that game, all of a sudden guys hit a couple shots. Ben Carter's an X factor. Ben Carter,
a genius move to play Ben Carter.
Izzo's a genius for putting him in that spot. Like, who would have thought to put a 6-year senior in that spot on that stage? And I'm not taking any credit away from anyone or discrediting. Look, that's the game. This is a make and miss game, and guys had good looks, and I would take those shots to this day. I mean, was watching it earlier and saw a couple, Josh Langford, a couple like one dribble pull-ups wide open. I would almost trust my life with Josh Langford taking those shots. You know what I mean? I've seen him hit those, 100 in a row type thing. I seen Matt McQuaid, hit those shots with his eyes closed, and to also know the work that they put into getting there and to be able to take those shots, because people don't understand the hours that it really, it goes into being able to be on that stage and take those shots and having those opportunities. And I'm living with that. I'll take the blame. Like, if people want to put the blame on me for that game, I will take it.
But it's a preposterous statement, though. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Blaming on our shooters or something like that. Like, those are great. Those guys were great. Are great players. They were great players. And myself also at that moment in my life, at that moment in my career, I deserve to be in that spot. I worked to be in that spot. I didn't make it to Michigan State by chance. I didn't make it back on that court by chance. I proved that I belonged in that spot. If people want to go back and meet me in East Lansing, we can go watch the film from practice, and see where I stacked up against all the guys that should have been in those spots, per se. And it's not to take anything away from anyone else. Like, look, Izzo made his decision. I'm sure if you ask him, I'm sure he'll live with it too. I mean, that's the name of the game. People.
People have the wrong takeaway. I'm fascinated just that the takeaway from that game and that team, the legacy of that team is, but for the Ben Carter, Jaren Jackson decision, everything would have turned out different. It's like, not only was that the least of the problem, that was actually one of the only things that went right that day was that adjustment. Jaren Jackson told a friend of mine, not on camera, but has said it a couple times, actually to two different people I know, that he was flummoxed by Boeheim's defense, by the zone, that he was having trouble with it. And I didn't need him to say that, because anybody watching could see he did. I think that situation was perfect for you as a veteran versus a very young freshman too. I mean, Jared Jackson was the youngest player in the country. He wasn't just a freshman. He was the youngest freshman. So as big of a freak athlete as he was, he's a fantastic player, won Defensive Player of the Year that year as a freshman.
That's my guy. I have so much love for Jaren Jackson. You guys.
Oh, yeah. But that was a good Ben Carter spot, though.
And also, people don't also, besides the shots, the threes that we didn't make, also catching that ball and dropping it down low as well to Xavier, who had a phenomenal game. So happy for him, getting his chance in the league and doing so well with it. X had a come out game. X had a couple moments in that season where we were like, okay, X is really good, and he's going to be really good for this program moving forward. And we all knew that. But for him to show it in that game was special. And I'm so happy for him. He's one of the best teammates I've ever had in my life. He's such a humble, selfless guy. But also shout out to Jaren, man. I hope you get better soon, man. I'm praying for you. He recently had foot surgery. But I know he's going to come back stronger than ever.
The going into that game, because the adjustment where you started playing heavy came midstream, I think, with what Izzo observed. Was there any kind of nudge on the arm, like before, like, hey, get ready, like we may need you a lot today? Did you have any idea that would play out?
They prepared me for that. I mean, there's no real preparation for game minutes and game reps. I'll say that. Look, I practiced the whole year. I got all my reps, and I was putting in so much extra work. I mean, I was at the gym with Gavin and Kenny and TK working out at 6 a.m. every morning. Like, we were putting in the work, but it's the difference between game reps and getting rhythm while playing on that stage versus doing it in practice. There's a difference, and the only real way to prepare for that is just to do it, just to get those reps. And coming into the NCAA tournament, once we got our draw, the coaching staff did, kind of pull me aside and said, be ready. They gave me some minutes in the Bucknell game, which was to try and get my feet wet a little bit, to kind of give me some more feel for the game and everything. But the truth is, I really wasn't myself. I mean, I'm not going to say myself. I was coming off of 2 major knee injuries. Like, it takes time to come back from injuries like that. And I really didn't even get my rhythm until the following season, or really even 2 years later, in my professional career, where I really started to feel like I was playing without thinking about the injury, or playing through the way that I felt because of the injury and coming back from that. So I look watching that game and seeing it, I got the knee brace on and everything, and seeing how I moved years later into my professional career, it's just night and day. And just see a different player. But that was good for me to go through, man. It was, just to prove to myself that that I belong more than anything. Just after everything that I've been through, that I belong. So, yeah.
I view it like, the bottom line is, it's not about being mad at Matt McQuaid, who's actually, I'm friends with Matt. So it's like, I don't want him yelling at me, because I'm sure he's going to be watching if he's not right now.
Congratulations to him. Matter of fact, him and Kenny, they both got married recently.
That's
Kenny's
right.
Right now.
That's
So
right.
Congratulations to Cueto and his wife, and also Kenny and his wife. I'm so happy for them, and to see as we get into those next phases of our lives, to see some of the guys that we came up with, and see them enter in those next phases of their lives. It's a special, beautiful thing, and I'm happy for those guys. So love.
Oh, all the way. And hey, what I was going to say on that note is, it's not about being mad at anybody. I have a perspective that you do. It's a 2-point loss where the team shot 25% from the field. If you shoot 28%, which by the way is still atrocious, you win.
I went and looked at the box score today, and it was ugly. It was ugly. I mean,
horrible.
It was an ugly box score, but that's how they wanted to play. We fell into that trap. We barely had any fast break points, if any, and that's just how the ball rolled that game. And I don't have any animosity towards anybody. I don't even have any animosity or hate towards some of the people that have kind of tried to smear my name. Seth Greenberg, you showed me the clip. I love Seth Greenberg. I played for his brother Brad in Israel, and Seth is great. I got a lot of respect and love for Seth. So I don't feel anything towards people who have those opinions. I would always suggest them to have a conversation with me first, and kind of take a look into my perspective. I think we live in a society today where people just want to spew out their opinions and not really give people the time or have the conversations to understand alternative perspectives. And that's, kind of speaks to the current state of the world we're living in right now. And, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm still going to live my life. I hope they are happy in their lives. People in general are happy in their lives. And at the end of the day, that's all I can really ask for is peace, happiness. I don't want to, even though there is a heated rivalry between, MSU and Michigan, and, I'm sure those fans had a field day, but it is what it is.
But they're wrong, though. Those fans are wrong.
It still go green. It still go green regardless. But yeah, I look, as far as right or wrong, that's for you guys to debate. In terms of my take on it, I'm gonna say it was the right decision because I got to play and I got to be in that position. And for myself, I'm happy. I'm proud of myself for that. And so for me, you ask me, look, yeah, that was the right decision, and I'm gonna back that. But at the same time, if you would have put Jaren there and not me, if you would have put Miles there and not myself, I would have. Yeah, you made the right decision. Like whatever it takes to put ourselves in a position to win. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And we had a chance to win that game regardless. It wasn't like it was a lopsided victory from Syracuse. We were winning the game most of the game, and it was tight. But that's I'll leave that up for you guys to debate whether it's right or wrong. That's my take on it.
Well, I appreciate the support. I don't want you to leave it too much up to me, though, because I've been alone, like Jon Snow with the mob coming at him. With
you know where we've had conversations in private about, how appreciative I am of you for having that perspective and that take, and to feel like I got someone in my corner, because it feels like it felt like at times that everyone was kind of against me. And, so I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me on the show to share my perspective.
Yeah, I really appreciate having you. I looked for it. I don't think you've ever spoken publicly about that and the backlash from that. I'd be fascinated to hear what Tom Izzo would say. I know I talked to Dane Fife about it, and Dane told me at the time that they had absolutely no regrets, that they still think that was the right decision. And Izzo is not, he may be stubborn in some ways. He is openly in front of the media questioning himself all the time. Oh, I probably rode Cassius too hard. And oh, I probably didn't give him enough minutes earlier. The guy's the most self-critical coach in the country, maybe in any sport. So it's not, he may be stubborn in one lane. He's not stubborn in his decisions. He's constantly self-critical. And they seem to stand by the decision for whatever it's worth.
That's one of the biggest things I learned from Tom Izzo is having the ability to self-reflect and self-evaluate. And that's what he constantly does. And that's why he's been as successful as he is, because he constantly looks in the mirror and faces the music however he needs to face it. And that's something he teaches all of his players. And that's something I use to this day constantly. I think I'm constantly looking at ways to improve in my life on and off the court. And I owe a lot of that to Coach Iz and, to his staff and the way he runs his program, because it's easy to run away from problems. It's easy to point fingers and deflect blame and, say that, okay, if this would happen, this would happen. Like it's easy to do those things, but that's not who Tom Izzo is. He's not going to do the easy thing. He came from, the UP and made it to, lifetime at Michigan State, in Final Fours and national championships. And I actually recently had a conversation with Mateen Cleaves and Jason Richardson. They were here in Las Vegas. We were watching Jay Rich's son play, and I was, sharing some conversation with them and talking about our times, and especially the different landscape that is going through college athletics right now, and how Iz is going to kind of maneuver it and navigate that, and if he can still, do it at such a high level with the changing rules and everything, and so different than when he started. But knowing him, he's going to embrace that challenge, and knowing him, he's going to do whatever he can to have Michigan State, in the top of the town, and the tops of every college basketball program in the country. And it's because of that mindset that he has and that he's instilled in all of his players, and something that I talk with Mateen and Jay Rich about. So it's I'm grateful for my time at Michigan State always. I look back at my college career, and I went to 3 different universities, played at 3 different conferences, played for amazing coaches, Dana Altman, Dave Rice, Coach Iz, and all the assistants and all the staff that kind of goes into the success behind the programs. And I'm very grateful for the experience that I had, and that I continue to carry with me throughout my time. So,
yeah, I've had, I think you're the 5th or 6th former player I've talked to, and they all say the same stuff. Everybody loves Tom Izzo. The fan base has buried this poor guy like 7 times since I've been paying attention in the last 2 decades. And it's, he's lost his fastball or whatever. And it's like always because he goes 2 years without making a Final Four, and then he renews his Final Four license. So I'm with you. I love what he's doing in recruiting. Go ahead, Ben.
So fans got spoiled, because how hard it is to make the NCAA tournament every year, especially
I know.
Such a difficult conference in the Big Ten. I mean, in the Big Ten championships, how difficult that level of success is. They pay that man that much money for a reason.
I'm with you.
Fans got spoiled. That's expected. Because what comes with success is higher expectations and expectation. And that's
oh yes, I was saying it's part of the territory with what he's built. I mean, you're not going to find. I'm probably to a fault a Tom Izzo fan. Not that he's beyond reproach, because no one on the planet is, but I mean, my license plate is TM Izzo, so you can't get a more Tom Izzo like homer than me probably. But yeah. I love genuinely what he's doing in recruiting with Booker's coming now. The momentum is sort of back. I don't know what they were doing in the transfer portal this year. They were kind of, I don't know, asleep or weren't interested or something. Other than that, I love what they're doing. I will go down with the Tom Izzo ship whenever he decides to take it down and retire. I will go down with the Ben Carter deserved every minute of those 23 minutes against Syracuse. I'm fully confident I'm right. Dane Fife thinks I'm right. I think Tom Izzo thinks I'm right. Ben Carter thinks I'm right. Man, I really appreciate you having this conversation and giving us as much time as you did. I know you're busy, and seriously, it was a lot of fun. I'd love to have you back sometime, not to talk about Syracuse.
Yeah, man. Look, I try to make my way out to Michigan once a year, usually in the summers, because that's the best time to be in Michigan. Don't want to come in the winter. But next time I'm in town, man, I'll definitely hit you up, get together. I think they got a casino around there somewhere in Detroit. So
we'll run the craps back. Yeah, we'll have you like in the actual studio and not in my library. There's like a fly that's been buzzing by my head the whole show. I don't know if the camera picked it up. I feel like Pigpen from Charlie Brown. But anyway, Ben Carter.
I got my MSU jersey in the background there.
See, no animosity. It's an oasis. You're not looking back in anger over there. I'm glad because I didn't know it because our conversation. You've never said anything bad about Michigan State, but I know that was like a shitty thing for you to go through. I didn't know if you were going to get on here and say, yeah, fuck Michigan State, but yeah, I see the shirt right away. I'm like, we're off to a good start. So I'm glad because I think you deserve to be remembered fondly, and I'm glad that your overall experience was good.
Yeah, like it was great to be, in East Lansing during that time and to be with those guys. I got so much love and respect for everyone that I crossed paths with during that time. And I still, do my best to try and keep in contact with guys, over the years, especially it gets difficult, especially when I'm out of the country most of the year. I'm actually, rehabbing right now to, go back to Israel next season. So it's tough over the years to keep in touch with everyone, but I got so much love and respect for everyone that I came across my time there, and I know that I always have a home in East Lansing, and I'm welcome with open arms. And actually, last time I was on campus, had a great conversation with Iz, and he was real proud of me for everything that I've overcome to get to where I'm at, and to have some success as a professional. And that was always my dream, and I think Coach Iz knew that from the beginning. When he had conversations with me, that there's one thing about this guy: he loves basketball, and basketball is life, and that's something that me and Iz can relate to each other with. And for me, overcoming everything I've been through, to be able to still play the game that I love is a blessing. And I look forward to coming back to EL again and spreading some love and speak about my time there, and also continue the tradition of players coming back and being around the guys, because that's such a big part of it. I know when I was there, I got the chance to get close with Kalen Lucas even before we played together professionally. He was in the summer there working out, and so many guys over time: Denzel, Bryn, Gary, so many Spartan legends just coming back and sharing their knowledge and their experiences with the next generation of guys and the new and incoming players that have been there. And I think that speaks to the culture and tradition that is built with that program, to give guys a welcome place to be back. And I look forward to coming back and seeing that banner that I helped raise my senior year. That was a special moment, raising a Big Ten banner on senior night with my family in attendance. Spartan fans, that was special, and that's something every time I get to go back and look at that banner, it's helped bring back those memories. So I'm grateful forever.
When you're back in Michigan, let me know. I'll meet you at the craps table. I want to get you in studio. You can see all the Tom Izzo homages we have all over the place. Ben Carter, man, continued success to you. It was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Likewise, man. I appreciate you having me on the show, man.
Of course. Thank you to Ben Augusta, the other Ben, the great and powerful Oz on the other side of the digital curtain. Yeah, the other Ben. Ben, great job by you as always. I never give Ben Carter, Ben. I got to tell you, my Ben, the Ben that has to deal with me every day, I never give him much notice. He prepped this whole thing in like 15 minutes. So, yeah, a lot of love for him.
Give credit to the people in the background. It takes a village to reach high levels of success in whatever industry, whatever field. So shout out to all the people that don't get the credit, the people in the background, because it truly does take a village. And the people like that are the epitome of selflessness, and putting the team first, and everything that kind of goes with that. So shout out to your Ben, producer Ben, and shout out to everyone else behind the scenes making it happen. Without you guys, there would be no, what you get to see on the TV or on the computer. So.
Yeah, amen to that. And I have a great little 2-man village behind me that does most of the work. Frankly, I just kind of talk, but yeah, appreciate everyone watching. And then next time, man, in studio, let me know when you're in Michigan, and we'll do that. This was Off the Curb with Justin Spiro, Ben Carter, Ben Augusta on the board. We'll see you next time very soon.